Hey guys, Jonathan here, and I just got back from seeing Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, so I want to give you my full thoughts. Now, needless to say, I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan, so this movie had huge shoes to fill. First and foremost, though, the first part of this video is going to be non-spoilers, and I'll let you know when we get into spoilers. But the big question everybody has going into this movie is it any good? Well, look, I'm sitting here with a fedora on and Indiana Jones sets behind me, so obviously I'm a huge fan, and like I said, for an Indiana Jones movie to be good to excellent to superior, it really has huge shoes to fill because it walks in the shadows of giants, right? The first three movies are phenomenal, and I'm not even a Crystal Skull hater. I do think Crystal Skull is the worst of the original four, if you will, but it's not anywhere near as bad as anybody says it is on the internet, and I'm willing to die on that hill. So, as we get into this movie, know that that's my frame of reference, right? Like, I'm not somebody that hates Crystal Skull, so, if that turns you off to what my opinion would be, so be it. The internet's a big place. You could watch somebody else's video. That being said, here are my thoughts on the Dial of Destiny. I was absolutely blown away that they stuck the landing. This movie has been in production for ages, and it's one of the most expensive movies ever made. So I think the unfortunate thing about it is, despite the fact that the movie is actually better than Rotten Tomatoes and even the early critic reviews suggested it would be, unfortunately, it needs to make so much money like in the theater just to start making money that I honestly am concerned that by true business standards this could be a flop, but by fan standards the first 20 minutes of this movie are absolutely incredible. I found my jaw on the floor. I was leaning forward in my seat, wringing my hands. I was so excited by the first 20 minutes of the movie, and that was incredible. After that, we do get into kind of the main pace of what the film is going to be from, the rest of the way through. And I found that beginning part of, like, the present day, pace, if you will, the part set in 1969, that really landed. But it's almost like the it's so hard to explain. Like, the middle of the movie feels really long to me, and then the end feels really short. Like, the end just kind of feels like it happens. But I do kind of have to get into spoilers to elaborate on that. So before I get into spoilers, highly recommend this movie. If you are an Indiana Jones fan, it's absolutely going to deliver. If you're not an Indiana Jones fan or you're just like looking for something to see this weekend, it is good, but it may not like super win you over, but it's not this, terrible 0% on Rotten Tomatoes type of movie at all. It's one of the better movies I've seen this year, to be completely honest with you. But that being said, we are now getting into spoilers. So, the movie, we've got an 80-year-old Harrison Ford running around for all intents and purposes, right? So, I do feel like the movie leans into Indiana Jones being an old man quite a bit. But, that kind of helps give us a fitting end to the story. Now, the movie ends with, like, the fedora hanging out to dry and then the circle close on it as Indy grabs it. So as my friend Mike put it, it is kind of cool to know that even though we're not going to see them, Indy's still suiting up and having adventures, and it's just good to know that he doesn't die some lonely old man, estranged from his lover and his son's dead, and, that's where the movie, like, has Indy thinking he's going to end up, but the fact that we know he doesn't end up like that is super awesome, and I loved that. As far as emotional beats go, I actually cried 3 times. Now, again, you have to understand how much Indiana Jones means to me. These movies have helped me through a lot of different phases of my life in terms of, facing the unknown and going on adventures, honestly. Like, the first time I ever went abroad, I studied abroad in college. I was actually, like, really nervous to be that far away from home and across the planet, and the music from these films and just the sentiment behind the movies really helped me to embrace the opportunity I was given. Of course, it was amazing to study abroad, but having never left the country ever, going to Italy and France for the first time was a little bit daunting, and Indiana Jones as a concept really helped ground me and, help me see the positive in getting to travel like that. So super cool. Anyways, back on topic. I did get emotional 3 times. The first time is when we catch up with Sala. That was just so cool. And Sala brings Indy his bag with his hat and his whip and everything. And he also mentions that he's got his passport. And I just think it's so cool after all these years. Sala's ready to go on the adventure. Yes, these are 2 very old men, but it's just so cool to me that they nailed that part of Salah's character, and I really, really loved that. Another part that got me emotional is, of course, the ending when Karen Allen comes back as Marion Ravenwood. Seeing her again and the music, that made me well up. And then I welled up again not too terribly long after that when they reenact the Raiders kiss scene and Where Does It Hurt and all that. And it was just incredible. It really stuck the landing in a lot of ways. I have to be honest, when I see a lot of these movies that I'm super hyped for, like things like Marvel, DC, Indiana Jones in this case, my first viewing, I feel like it's sensory overload. So here's something that I'm looking forward to unpacking more when I get to see the film a second time, which I'm seeing it again tomorrow. I'm filming this Wednesday night, you're watching it Thursday, so I'm seeing it again tonight, Thursday. Anyways, like, I feel like it didn't click for me 100% what the villain's motivation was to get the Dial of Destiny until the very end. And again, maybe that went over my head. I'm not 100% sure. I need to see it again and see if they were dropping hints. But, you know, they talk about what date the villain wants to go back to. And it wasn't until they kind of explicitly, like, said it that it clicked for me. Now, to be completely fair, though, I have been reading spoilers on this movie for like over a year, so I knew what it was, but I'm just saying, like, as a general audience member, I didn't really feel like it came across in the movie. Now, Helena, obviously our co-lead or co-star, I guess is the better way to put it. You know, hey, let's just call it what it is. There are a lot of people on the internet that were complaining about her being annoying or a nuisance or whatever the case may be. I didn't really think so. I mean, there are times, particularly like in the middle, like dead center middle of the film, where I feel like the character focus ended up being more on her than on Indy. Like, for example, when they're like on the boat and they're kind of working with the villain and got they're antagonizing Indy and her to get the information about the dial and all that. I felt like it really shifted to her a lot in the middle there, like basically from the tuk-tuk ride to when they get on the boat escaping the big boat. And that's not to say it's good, bad, or other, but it's like, I'm in this movie to see Indiana Jones. I want to see him be awesome, not him just sit there on the couch like befuddled and not really know exactly what's going on. So, that being said, no real issues with Helena. I thought we had a really good villain. Indy had great action, especially considering Harrison's basically 80 years old filming all these scenes. The last thing I want to touch on, though, is a missed opportunity in this movie. And I believe Disney/Lucasfilm knows they missed this opportunity, but by the time like they realized they missed it, it was too late. I feel like the character of Helena could absolutely be replaced by Ke Kwan as Short Round. Granted, an older Short Round, but I think the movie honestly works better that way. Now, I could see people saying like, oh, this movie's just full of callbacks, blah, 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 but listen, think about how the movie's set up, right? Indy has lost Mutt. Mutt died in the war in Vietnam, and that caused him to lose Marion. So, if Indy reconnects with Short Round and goes on this adventure, maybe he realizes that, yes, his true biological son is no longer here, but he's had a son all along in Short Round. And we could even talk about the fact how, you know, it's always been a point of discussion between Indy fans. It's like, how come we never hear anything about Short Round again chronologically in Raiders, Last Crusade, or Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? We never hear about Shorty again. I know there are some comics and things like that and books and things, but as far as like the canon movies go, we never hear about Shorty again. So what if that is Shorty's character arc, that, you know, Indy has pushed him away his whole life for whatever reason? You can unpack that in the movie, and now you've got Shorty back, and they go on this adventure, and Indy realizes that although his biological son is no longer living and no longer here, and yes, Shorty's like 40 years old at this point, but we can still, you know, have family that isn't blood. And I just love that idea of that coming full circle. I even think you could have it come more full circle, that at the beginning when we have that big train chase with de-aged Harrison Ford, which was really, really good, by the way. The voice still sounded like old man Harrison Ford, which is weird because, you know, we've had them de-age Luke's voice in The Mandalorian, but I'm getting off topic. What I'm getting at here is, when they get to the end of that train chase, instead of, the American planes coming in and saving the day, so to speak, what if we have that, but then when the train ends, Shorty is there waiting for them. Granted, he'd be more like a teenager Shorty at this point, but maybe we set up something about how that's the last time Indy saw him, or, he picks up Indy and Basil and they start talking about the dial and what it could be, so Shorty knows about it. So then we jump to 1969 later on, and here comes Shorty, and he figured out something about the dial. So he comes into Indy's classroom the same way Helena did. Indy doesn't recognize Shorty because it's been all these years. Shorty explains who he is, and the whole thing can play out pretty darn similar. I mean, we do lose, like, the, auction that Helena holds, but do we really need that? You could replace it and move some things around. All I'm saying is I think Indy and Shorty could have been the main characters of this movie, and it would have packed such a bigger punch. More people would be flooding to the box office to see that, especially with Ke Huy Quan after Everything Everywhere All at Once. But I just think Disney / Lucasfilm really dropped the ball by not having Shorty in this, because think about this too. General audiences love Short Round. Like, Indiana Jones fans love Shorty, and so if they set the movie up that maybe Shorty takes on the, Fedora mantle, or even if just Shorty gets its own spin-off series, like on Disney Plus or something, there's so much potential that they could have done that and kept the Indiana Jones story and franchise going, but they didn't. And, not to say Helena's like an awful character, but realistically, just be honest with yourself, would you flood to the theater to see a Helena Shaw movie or a Short Round movie? Or actually, you know what? Take all of that out. Let's say a Disney Plus series, a limited series, 6 episodes. Would you be more excited to watch a Helena Shaw 6 episode or Short Round 6 episode? I'm on Team Short Round. If you're Team Helena, let me know in the comments. But with that being said, this review's circling in on about 12 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it there. Can't believe I got all this in one take, but let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. But anyways, let me know what you thought of the movie. Be sure to hit like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Well, you made it to the end of the video. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and maybe check out one of my other videos listed here.